guys, so I released a video explaining available and unavailable tensions, essentially what they are, the difference between them, and how to work them out. But I didn't give any examples in that video. And so someone has asked me to do exactly that, to provide a few examples to show why available tensions work while unavailable tensions don't work. And so I'm going to do exactly that as a quick top-up video to follow on from my previous available tensions video. So I'm going to assume you've already watched my available tensions video, and so I'm not going to go over any of the theory here. I'm just going to show you how it works in practice. Now let's take a simple 2-5-1 progression in the key of C major, and I'm just going to be using block chords to play this. So we have the chords D minor 7 to G7 to C major 7, and together they sound like this. Right, so that sounds quite smooth, quite sweet and pleasant, and each chord flows quite nicely into the next one. It all sounds really, really nice and smooth. And so that's the sound of a 2-5-1, if you like. That's what a 2-5-1 is supposed to sound like. Now to this chord progression, let's add some available tensions to each chord. So we can go D minor 9 to G13 to C major 9, and that'll sound like this. Right, so that still sounds quite smooth and quite pleasant, and it still sounds like a 2-5-1. It still has that nice, smooth 2-5-1 sound. Now let's add a few more available tensions to these chords. Let's do D minor 11 to G7 flat 13 to C major 9 sharp 11. Now that sounds like this. Right, so again, that still sounds quite smooth and quite pleasant and sweet, and it still sounds like a 2-5-1. Now let's add some unavailable tensions and see what it sounds like. So I'm going to play D minor 9 to G13 to C major flat 9. Now a flat 9 is not an available tension over a major 7 chord, so we're expecting the last chord to clash and to sound really unpleasant. So let's have a listen. Right, so that last chord doesn't sound very pleasant. It's very dissonant. It sounds like it clashes with itself. And the chord progression doesn't sound like it's a 2-5-1. It doesn't have that smooth and pleasant 2-5-1 feel. It sounds much more like a 2-5 than some kind of diminished or half diminished chord or something a bit weird. Right, it doesn't sound resolved. It doesn't sound like a 2-5-1 chord progression. Similarly, a D minor 9 G13 to C major sharp 9 is also going to sound dissonant and unpleasant, and the chord progression is not going to sound like a 2-5-1. Right, and that's because I used an unavailable tension over that C major chord. That chord doesn't sound like a major 7 chord. Right, it sounds really dissonant, really unpleasant, maybe some kind of minor major 7 or some kind of like altered chord, and so it doesn't work as a tonic chord at the end of a 2-5-1 progression, because it ruins the smooth, pleasant character of that 2-5-1 chord progression. Or again, let's play D minor 9 to G13 to C major 11. Now, the natural 11 is not an available tension over the C major chord, and we'll see why in a second. So that sounds like this. Right, so again, it doesn't sound like that 2-5-1 has resolved. It doesn't sound smooth and sweet and pleasant like a 2-5-1 chord progression should. In fact, I think it sounds like a 2-5-2 chord progression, because that C major natural 11, where the natural 11 is not an available tension over a C major chord, doesn't sound like a C major to me. It sounds like a D minor 13 chord. And so this chord progression now, to me at least, sounds like a 2-5-2 chord progression rather than a 2-5-1 chord progression. And so that's what I mean when I say unavailable tensions ruin the consonance or the sound of the chord. If you use an unavailable tension over a chord, that chord no longer sounds like itself. Cool, so I hope that made sense and that clarified the difference between available and unavailable tensions and how they're used in practice. Otherwise, again, thanks for watching guys, and see ya.